We are in the doctrinal teachings, the principles of justification. As we enter this next lesson here today, we see that in the Bible that Paul anticipated and he refuted a possible objection to his use of Abraham to prove the justification by faith. Last week we talked about it. The law came, and many people, the giving of the law at Sinai brought on a thought that a change had happened and a better method of salvation had come through Moses and the law. But as we're learning, Paul refuted that, and Paul anticipated that they would say a better way came, that they would deny Paul's claim of using Abraham and the promise. See, the promise was given long before the law, that you would get your righteousness, your justification before your Father by the promise of Abraham. And they were going to object and say, a better way came through Moses. See, the law was holy, but not unto salvation, unto the revelation of sin. Amen? Amen. Amen. So we're going to see today the apostles dismissed this argument by showing the superiority of the Abrahamic covenant in verse 15 through 18, which we'll look at today. And also, they pointed out the inferiority of the law in verse 19 through 22. And we'll take a look at that next week. Okay? So we're going to look at the superiority of the Abrahamic covenant. 15 through 18 reveals the promise of the covenant. And I want to say before we read that to us, it may seem very evident or almost like a casual thought that we don't achieve salvation by law. But I want to tell you that this very lesson is so predominant in the world today. Every false religion, there are billions of them. They are fighting in the world right now, as you know. We mourn our troops right now because there are people in the world who think that obeying these laws, even at the cost of life, for anyone that gets in the way, that these lives must be obliterated, to obey their laws because someone spoke against their rule. This rule leads them to heaven. These rules are their salvation. Do you see? That's why they strike so fiercely. This lesson is so predominant in the world today, but for us, it may be like, of course salvation comes through Jesus, but I want you to know that this message is all over the world. I'm going to share a personal story. I had a Christian fellow, and it was a miracle. He had been in trouble. He had spent time in prison. He had been troubled, and he came to the Lord, and he came to our community, and I was so happy. I couldn't believe it. Like Leslie said, I'm living to tell the testimony. There he was believing in Jesus. And I want to tell you that before our friendship could be established, over a period of 1 month, that he told me that if you don't honor and promise not to work on Saturday, then I don't want anything to do with you. And that happened to me, and I was devastated. And he left, and he never talked to me again. Because I said, that's not true for us Christians. We're under grace. So to me, I've seen it. Not just in other religions. I've seen it. I've celebrated with a man, and then I have mourned over his departure, promising never to talk to me again because of not grace, but law. Thank you. Because of law. So I want you to take this message to your heart, and I want you to remember that you may have it, praise Jesus that you have it in your heart that this might be just common sense. But there are billions of people in this world that believe that they have to die or obliterate other human lives only to obey the law that they think that their God is commanding them. And that is an atrocity. Can everybody say amen? Amen. It is terrible, and it's ruining our world. Okay. The promise of the covenant is what saves everything, okay? It is the answer to the world's problems. Maybe we see it in a bigger way today. If they could just understand the promise, these things would cease happening. They would cease striving.